How about we get some statistical hope from the guy?
Some hard data.
The guy, Ken Pomeroy, joining BYU Sports Nation again. Ken, great to have you back on the show.
Yeah, thanks, guys. Good morning.
What should we give to you as your official title? I know you're a college basketball insider, but with the stats recognition, should we add something to your title?
I don't know. I get this question a lot, and it's a tough one. I mean, I'm cool with I'm cool with stats guru. I'm cool with statistical analyst, something along those lines. It doesn't have to be too far. I've never heard one that makes me sound like a rock star. So until that happens, I'm pretty open.
And that's what we're going for.
You let us know what that is.
If you find out what the rock star status is for a stats guy, then we want to call you that. We'll start with BYU's 15 3-pointers, only 7 2-point field goals. They win by 21 on Saturday, lead the country in scoring. How do you explain what BYU is, and is there another team out there like them?
Not really. I mean, they're obviously, really dominated by the three-point shot, and I think that explains to some extent the up-and-down play. They can go on the road and beat San Francisco by 31, and they come back at home, and they have to hit some shots down the stretch to beat them. And, you look at how they shot the three in those two games, and that goes a long way to explain what happened. I mean, this is something I think you have to live with as a BYU fan right now. All of your scoring is basically coming out of the backcourt, and it's mostly, well, not literally mostly, but, a high percentage is coming from the three-point line, and so you're just going to have a lot of inconsistency with that kind of method.
And it's weird to me that BYU could lead the country without a post presence. How do you see it?
Yeah, the scoring title on a team level, I think, it's largely a function of pace. And BYU right now, 7th in the country in terms of adjusted tempo. So basically the 7th most possessions in the land, and they're first in terms of their average possession length on offense, which that would be the 4th year in a row they've done that. So, they're a team that pushes the ball, and if you can push the ball and you can score at a reasonably decent clip, you're going to pile up a lot of points. And that part is not necessarily unusual. When you look at the teams that do lead the country in scoring, typically they're smaller teams that like to play at a faster pace, and so BYU is certainly doing that.
Now, one of the disadvantages of BYU's style of play, you could say, is because they get up and down so much and they have more possessions, they allow their opponents more possessions, and in turn they're giving up more points under Dave Rose than they have in quite a while. Do you see that statistically as a disadvantage for BYU because they play so fast?
Yeah, it's not necessarily such a disadvantage to play fast. I mean, there's some fast-paced teams that have decent defenses, when you look on a possession basis. BYU does not fall into that category, unfortunately. They're ranked 151st right now in adjusted defensive efficiency. They're 13th, by the way, in offense. So you can really see that contrast that, this team dominated by its offense. They hope they can just, kind of play enough defense to get by. There are teams around the country that are like that. Indiana comes to mind, and is a team that has been ranked in the top 25 off and on this season that has a similar profile and a similar lack of size. So, it's kind of the hand that BYU's been dealt this year. They're trying to make the most of it, and nobody expects them to have a great defense. It would be nice, I think, from a BYU standpoint, if that defense improved just a little bit, because that'll allow them to finish the season stronger than certainly the first half of the conference season has gone.
Ken, Tyler Haws is second in the country at 22.6 a game. What kind of next-level statistics show you that he's one of the best offensive players in the country as well?
Well, Tyler's just been amazingly consistent, and, this year shooting three-pointer a little bit more, although certainly not what we would call a guy who depends on the three-point shot. Only about a quarter of his shots are three-pointers. So he's really a guy that is able to just make an amazing percentage inside the three-point line, hitting 52% of his shots there. It doesn't sound like a ton, but for a guy who's 6'5", who's often playing against players who are taller than him, and taking a lot of mid-range shots, that's pretty impressive. And then he also gets to the free throw line really well. 160 free throws this year, making 88% of those. So he's just kind of a scoring machine. You also throw in the fact he's not committing many turnovers. He's actually top 100 in the country in terms of lowest turnover rate. He only turns it over in about 10% of the possessions that he uses for the team. So that's a great figure as well. So it's just a lot of different parts to his game. It's not necessarily one thing you can pull out and say, hey, boom, he's great at this. He's actually just really, really good in a number of different areas. And the fact that, Dave Rose plays him so much, and the fact that he plays on a team that's so fast-paced, all those things come together to allow him to contend for a scoring title.
College basketball insider and stats rock star, Ken Palm.
Nice.
Let's just straight up call you a rock star. Ken, are you okay with that?
That's a good start. Yeah, I'm not going to argue with you there.
Those typically don't go together, but we'll use it. Yeah.
BYU basketball has a couple of rock stars on their team. We've already addressed one of them in Tyler Haws. Then there's Kyle Collinsworth, who has tied a single-season record with 4 triple-doubles, has a chance to pass that with the number of games remaining on the schedule this year. What is more impressive, what Tyler Haws has done over his career or what you're seeing from Kyle Collinsworth in terms of triple-doubles this season?
Yeah, it's a close call. There's only been 10 triple-doubles across the country by my count. We're up to somewhere around 3,500 games played at the Division I level. So a triple-double is a rare thing. Nobody has more than one besides Kyle, who has 4. It's pretty impressive. I mean, he's the kind of guy with that skill set. Going into the season, he's capable of getting a triple-double, but just getting one is pretty rare. I mean, I don't think people understand how difficult that is, especially on the assist level. I mean, it's just tough to get 10 assists, period. To do that in a game where you're getting 10 rebounds and 10 points, it's pretty amazing. So this is definitely a special season for Kyle. I know, next year people will probably be looking at him and saying, hey, how many triple doubles are we going to get this year? And it's really possible that, he won't get one next year because it's so tough to do. So people should really cherish the statistical impressiveness of getting 4 in one season.
Yeah, Nate Austin not playing has helped. The fact that next year BYU should have Kyle Davis, Jamal Aites, and company. I mean, yeah, you're right. He might not get one next year because of that. When you look at BYU and what they are trying to do, the back end of conference play, we've kind of looked at, they have 7 games left, 6 before Gonzaga. What's BYU's win probability? I know you put this together on your website in the final 6.
Yeah, to get those 6 wins, I have it at about 14%. So
that they get all 6.
Yeah, they get all 6. They go 6-0. So about a 1 in 7 chance, and a lot of that probability is limited by their next game. Playing at Pepperdine. I actually have Pepperdine in the slight favorite. They have a 50-50 coin flip. So that limits their chances pretty much right there. A huge game. I mean, if they get that win, then things start to open up and those probabilities start to go up. But Pepperdine's really emerged as this team that is trying to crack the top 3 of the WCC. Trying to they've already beaten BYU and St. Mary's on the road. So they have a pretty good resume, and it's not going to be an easy win at all. Pepperdine's really good actually at defending a 3-point shot and contesting 3-pointers, and obviously that's something that BYU needs to do well to have a better chance of winning. So that's a really interesting game on the schedule that I think people nationally are kind of overlooking.
Does Pepperdine have an Achilles heel statistically that BYU can game plan for?
Well, they're a little bit kind of opposite of what BYU is. They're not very good offensively. They are good defensively, as we just discussed, but not very good offensively. They're not a great shooting team. This is a team that's going to try to get some points inside, but they're also not very big. So, it'll be interesting to see what Dave Rose does if Collinsworth is ready to go, whether he goes small or goes big. I would expect he'll just go with BYU's strength and try to outscore Pepperdine. But it's definitely a team that struggles a little bit more offensively than they do defensively.
Ken, what's the most unique statistical trend about this BYU basketball team, in your opinion?
Well, it really is, I think, that imbalance, offense and defense. You don't see a ton of that across the country. Usually if you have the kind of players that can score the ball, they can also play pretty good defense, and right now that hasn't been the case. The other thing that is unusual about them, but it's not unusual necessarily in a BYU sense, is that even though they're very fast offensively, they force very long possessions defensively. We mentioned that they have the fastest possession length offensively. Defensively, they're 328, so roughly 24th longest in terms of possession length. And, mixing the defenses, playing some zone, that plays into that statistic. But it's a team where if you were going to introduce a time of possession stat in the middle of a game, it would actually be pretty useful because we'd see the other team has the ball a lot longer than BYU does, and that's just a function of BYU style.
Ken, I know you have your own index of teams and where they rank in the country. With BYU, where do you feel like they need to finish in your index to make a legitimate run at making the NCAA tournament as an at-large team?
Yeah, that's a great question because obviously the committee doesn't really use my system to any significant extent in order to determine who gets in. Right now I have BYU at 37. So it's one of those cases where if BYU does not get into the tournament, they're going to be looking at some teams that get in and be thinking, hey, we were as good as those teams. We could have beaten some of those teams. So they're certainly good enough to get in. I think the scenario is to get these next 6 wins and potentially lose to Gonzaga in the season finale. And if they do that, and if they win some games impressively, they could climb, say, into the top 30 in my system. And there are cases of teams getting that high and not making it in. There might be like one team a year, one team every other year that does that. So if they can do that, they'd have to feel pretty good about their chances.
Ken Pomeroy, further solidifying his rock star status with us on BYU Sports Nation. Ken, great to have you with us.
Guys, I always appreciate it.